Today, we are very excited to have this podcast discussion with two eminent guests on our platform. This podcast is produced by the Indian School of Business Centre for Business Innovation. On our show today, we have Professor Rajendra Srivastava, who is the Novartis Professor of Marketing Strategy and Innovation at the Indian School of Business. He's also the Executive Director of the Centre for Business Innovation. Manoj Kohli is an internationally acclaimed coach for founders and CEOs and a mentor for MNCs and startups in India and abroad. He's been the country head of Softbank India for close to a decade and the MD and CEO of Airtel India, driving the international growth of Airtel in Africa, around the world. He's given a tremendous contribution to making Airtel one of the world's top 3 telecom companies, and not to mention Airtel being a very much loved brand in India and around the world. Welcome, Prof. Raj Srivastava, Manoj Kohli ji. So we're bringing all this experience in our discussion today to answer one simple question. How does India move from becoming a services superpower to an innovation engine for the world? Prof. Raj Srivastava, I'd like to begin with you. You've written extensively about how the value of a company or a firm or even a country does not lie in the numbers visible to us on the balance sheet or in the GDP. It lies in intangible or market-based assets, as you call them, human capital, brands, IPs. From your vast experience, what are the most under-leveraged innovation assets of India today?
Well, I think this is a good question that you're asking, but the answer is not that simple. What we have to do is we have to relook and redefine what we mean by an asset. And the perspective I'm going to give you is not new. If I go back 3 decades ago in the mid-90s, back then, if I looked at the New York Stock Exchange, the market price to book value, meaning market capitalization to book value, at the New York Stock Exchange was roughly 4 to 1 at that time, which meant 75% of the value of the company was not on the balance sheet, which is hard assets and retained earnings, right? That was mid-90s. Today, if I look at the National Stock Exchange, that ratio is 4.6. NASDAQ is also about 4.5, 4.6, and New York Stock Exchange is about 4.3. So this is not, we're not picking high-tech companies, we're not picking exceptional companies. This is the average for the National Stock Exchange. So again, over about 80% of the value of the average Indian top 50 companies is not on the balance sheet. So somebody has to ask, kya ho raha hai? What exactly is happening out here? Right? So what I had evolved to in the 90s is this term market-based assets. These are assets that you don't own, that are not on the balance sheet, but these are the assets that you have created, for example, by developing a distribution network. So Pepsi finds it hard to compete against Coke because of the global bottling plants and network, in addition to the Coke brand.
Sure.
So partly the brand is here, but the other part is the ecosystem. Then you move forward and you look at the strengths of companies like Google, like Microsoft. What they've done is they've built an ecosystem. So I'm emphasizing this because when you look at our thinking about management, we still talk about like the 5 forces model, which was great when we were vertically integrated. But Porter's 5 forces model does not include within it the strategic partners that you need to win. So would Microsoft win without the help of the chip manufacturers, without the help of the Dells of the world, without the help of companies that write software which makes the product, more useful? And so what happens then is that it is the customer relationships, the strategic relationships. Today we call it the ecosystem. In the mid-90s, I was calling it market-based assets. Now what you need to do in vertically managed organizations is you need to create these hard assets that bring you efficiency. And the game that you're playing is a little bit like Attila the Hun. Why share with anybody else when I could make the money myself?
Sure.
But in an ecosystem, you have to create a win-win. Otherwise, you're going to be lose and others will win. So these are two things. And then the intangible assets that I'm talking about, these are things like human capital, right? So you look at the Indian School of Business, the value of that school depends on, obviously, on the content and intellect the faculty bring in. But importantly, if you look at the network of alumni, they help in admissions, they help in placement, they help the research centers. So this understanding the value of ecosystems. Now the problem is, and I apologize for this long-winded answer, the problem is that things that we call expenses are actually investments. So business development is an investment. When you say labor cost, our inclination is to bring the cost down. When you say human capital, the inclination is to nurture it.
Yeah, sure.
Right? So if human capital is an off-balance sheet intangible assets, we need to treat it differently.
Sure.
Right? So I'll come more to it, but
Yes.
you ask me a question, I can talk about it for about 300 years.
Yes, you're an academic at heart, so we appreciate these deep insights and experience you embed into your responses. Manoj, my question to you, you've nurtured companies and assets like the thriving startup ecosystem that you have overseen in your time at Softbank, nurturing the ecosystem for Airtel in Africa. But we are most curious about your initiative to bring together competitors in the telecom industry to build a consortium of fiber optics and tower infrastructure. How do you get competitors to work together in an ecosystem, and what can we learn from your experience of building ecosystems?
The primary reason for this was that Raj is my friend. And Raj understands this ecosystem business because
Sure.
we at Airtel, we build a partner ecosystem. The Airtel was a small company, minuscule company, and that too loss-making company.
Back in the early 2000s.
When it got listed,
Sure.
2001.
Sure.
So obviously that company couldn't have done much because we didn't have deep pockets like AT&T or Verizon or many others.
Sure.
We knew that the only way for us to sustain profitably is to build a very high quality partner ecosystem. Now we did that, we outsourced our networks to Ericsson, Nokia, Huawei, we outsourced our IT to IBM, we outsourced our distribution to 3.5 million outlets, showrooms. We didn't build any showroom. We outsourced our call centers to 5 big BPOs. Now when it came to two most expensive resources, which is towers. Towers could be 40 meters, 60, 80, even 100 meters, steel, cement, and of course fiber optics, which has to go around the country in thousands and thousands of kilometers, plus submarine cables, which go from the shores of India, Bombay and Chennai,
Sure.
to Los Angeles, to Europe, all over the world,
Sure.
and Singapore. So these two, we could have taken on our balance sheet fully. But that would have meant huge load on the balance sheet, an unnecessary load. Because the principle we followed was that if the customer doesn't see any infrastructure element, you can share it. If the customer sees the showroom, you can't share it. because customer sees Airtel
Correct.
or any other brand. Not good to share your brand. But behind that brand, there are infrastructure elements like fiber, like towers, etc., which customer never sees. He doesn't know, actually. So we built the largest tower company of the world, called Indus, with two competitors at that time, Vodafone and Idea. And we used to fight cutthroat competition in the daytime. And we used to share infrastructure simultaneously.
Sure.
And that was a great, I will say, wisdom of the CEOs. So the CEO of Vodafone, the CEO of Idea and me came together and we said, let's continue fighting, but at the same time, why are we wasting resources?
Sure.
Can we optimize resources for all our companies? It will be good for the companies, it will be good for the nation, good for the sector. So we shared all towers. And as you share towers, the cost comes down. Because let's say each tower is shared by 3 companies, 4 companies, so cost per unit comes down. Similarly, fiber. We'll build a lot of fiber together. If we didn't build fiber together, we also shared. For example, I built this 5,000 kilometers from north to east. And Tata's, let's say, build from north to west. And we said, okay, you can use this, you can use this. It was more a barter.
Sure.
And so we saved so much of expensive resources of each other. And I think this should be the ethos. What Raj is saying is absolutely true. Building a partner ecosystem is the mantra for future, especially for growth companies. Trying to do everything yourself, is not a good idea in today's world. If you want a light balance sheet, if you want higher productivity, higher profitability.
Sure. That's very deep insight. From your experience, today we are seeing that Airtel is one of the world's top 5 or maybe 3rd largest telecom company. A lot of the growth has come from India as a huge demand market, but from Africa and Southeast Asia. We are seeing that in other businesses like UPI, which is expanding after building its business in India, is expanding to Africa, Southeast Asia. From your experience of leading Airtel, what can Indian companies learn about growing in these markets? What is the mindset shift required to move from, let's say, cost focus or cost conservation to innovation-driven business models?
Absolutely right. Annabel, both are important. And at Airtel, we brought both of them into the business model. The business model was extremely unique, very innovative. First time in the telecoms sector across the world. It brought in frugal engineering, frugality, which our parents taught us. You know, I come from middle class family.
Sure.
You know, our parents, mothers especially, teach us frugality from childhood. So we applied the same frugality to the business model. And we said we'll be the lowest cost in the world. Sure. Per minute of voice and per MB of data. And that goal we achieved. Similarly, we said we'll tie up only with, work with, partner with high quality global partners who can bring in a lot of innovation ideas to us. For example, a small idea, I remember talking to Nokia, was about that, you know, these TRXs on the towers, the radios on the towers, between midnight and maybe 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, they are kind of, there's no traffic. Why are the TRXs on through the night? Can't we save the power for those 5 hours? They can go off. If the traffic comes in, if somebody makes a call in that area, sure, then they can be on. So we are not stopping any traffic. So they made this feature, Nokia made this feature, and it was very, very cost effective, plus innovative.
Yeah.
And so we piloted it, worked well, we made it national, it worked well. Nokia made it international as a new feature. They must have earned millions of dollars from it.
Sure.
Because that was a new product for the world. So the point, all the partner ecosystem was also innovation partner.
Just one question here. You are a parent to the next generation and you've grown up in a different generation, do you see the similar mindset of frugality, or are we seeing more adventurous and risk-taking mindset in the new generation?
Obviously, the risk taking is higher now.
Okay.
There's no doubt on that.
Okay.
But I think frugality continues to be our major strength.
Sure.
And I don't want to be defensive on this point.
Sure.
I mean, it's not a. The issue is that we are frugal and we optimize usage of each resource.
Sure.
We don't waste. If you go across the West,
Sure.
and I'm not being critical, I'm just stating a fact, there is a lot of wastage. There is a Western company, I don't want to name it, they told me that their ARPU, monthly bill, is $80–90, and their EBITDA is about 30–35%. Whereas our ARPU in Airtel was $2.50 per month, and our EBITDA was more than 60%. Now, what is the difference? Same product, same technology, same equipment like Ericsson, Nokia, etc. Same software platform, about 100 platforms. It is about frugality and optimum usage of each resource.
Sure.
And zero wastage. So at Airtel, we had a program for all employees called WOW, War on Waste.
War on waste. Okay.
And they were WOW champions. People used to have that badge
Sure.
on the chest. So it was celebrated. Whereas in the West, I feel the wastages are celebrated.
Okay.
But another example like UPI is very good. 40% of global digital transactions are at what cost? You know, government is spending such small money on this
and
platform.
zero charges for the consumer.
And zero charges for the consumer. Isn't it a fantastic idea?
Yeah.
Similarly, satellite.
Sure.
So our satellite can land on the moon at the cost less than a Hollywood movie.
About the moon.
About the moon. so there is something to learn from this.
Sure.
And I think we should retain this. Because the entire world is getting expensive.
Sure.
Even China is getting expensive because they have done so well.
Sure.
The cost of living is higher, people are earning more, hence their costs are higher.
Sure.
So if this is our strength, coupled with innovation, that becomes a very powerful foundation for the future.
Sure. And it's also about the mindset to nurture resource conserving ecosystems
Yeah,
for
example,
innovation.
Lenskart, one of the companies I work with, acquired a Japanese company, eyewear company.
Okay.
And now the entire supply chain of that company across 15 countries in Southeast Asia is from India
Okay.
at a much lower cost.
Okay.
So clearly it is helping them, growth is faster, the
Right.
margins are better.
Right.
So one has to do all this.
True. Prof. Raj, I'll pick your brain about, you've often argued that Indian companies should chase growth in fast growing global south markets, Africa, Latin America, Southeast Asia, along with high growth, high value markets in the West and Europe. Drawing from Manoj's experience, what kind of mindset shift do you see? How can Indian companies chase growth, profitability and innovation?
Right. Again, you made the mistake of asking a simple question, but you'll get a fairly long answer to this. See, what we need to do is we need to understand the advantage that we have generated. See, being frugal doesn't mean that we have to always be the cheapest. You know, you brought the cost down by being frugal, but the pricing, for example, can be competitive, but you also need to be building solutions, for the marketplace. So you take, you're talking about UPI, the India Stack, and how India is doing 40% of the world's
Global
transactions at a close to zero cost. And yes, when I go to Europe or when I go to the US, when it comes to the digital transactions, they're like third world countries, as far as I'm. Now, but it is not just the India Stack.
Sure.
What enabled the power behind it is actually telecom. So what enabled the India Stack to reach into the villages is certainly the digital infrastructure. but it's the telecom infrastructure that allowed us to expand. So when you put the two together, now it is difficult for others to copy. The one thing that I want to emphasize is there's nothing wrong with making money. And on this subject, I may disagree with a lot of people. The problem is you take a company like MasterCard. They're worth about $450 billion. Why are they worth $450 billion? It is not because they have the lowest cost. You go to Big Bazaar and they provided the infrastructure, they've provided the inventory, they've provided the labor, they've got the checkout, they've got the shopping carts and everything. And their margin, their net margin is about 2%. The turnover may be 20, so 40% return on assets doesn't sound bad. But then you go there shopping and you take out your MasterCard to pay for it. And MasterCard is earning 2%. Now the question is why? All right, so they've got millions of customers that use MasterCard. So a store can't say, I'm not going to accept MasterCard, because you may lose some part of the business, and that's what they're afraid of. They got, again, hundreds of thousands of banks issuing MasterCards, and they've got millions and millions of vendors accepting MasterCard. So the value of MasterCard has nothing to do with technology. Technology here is much better. But what they have is the network. So the question is, what will it take Rupee to build that kind of a network? And MasterCard was worth $450 billion. Visa is worth $600 billion, and throw in about a quarter trillion for American Express. And then you've got the Indian digital infrastructure battling $1.25 trillion. So what we have to do is also develop the mindset, where can we go? The infrastructure, the regulations in the US are going to keep Rupee out or not allow it to flourish. Europe, in my opinion, if you do a LLM and ask the question, what is great about India, what is great, or what is different about North America or Europe, I'm willing to bet that the answer for Europe will be regulation. They're known for regulation. So what we need to do is figure out, where should we go? You take a country like Nigeria, they have to go up the ladder just like India has had to scramble up the ladder. We can help, Middle East, North Africa, Africa, Southeast Asia. These are the countries that can learn from what we have gone through. And by the way, they also represent the ground where we can learn from them. And so I'm a very big proponent of expanding in the Global South. You go to the Global South, you make money, and then you take, because you've got to have a war chest, in my opinion, to build the market.
Prof, you have often argued that there is many Indias or many Bharats within India, and the growth rates of rural India, middle income India and high net worth India is very different. So why I am asking this is because one might be willing to pay, one class of society will be willing to pay margins for a Visa or a MasterCard, but UPI has grown through the volumes of,
No, we have a great, our system is debit based.
Sure.
Okay? The US system is credit based. And you look at the duopoly that MasterCard and Visa have, they pretty much everywhere, exceptions are China, exceptions are Japan. So there are few exceptions, and India is a big exception. Now India is a market that they will not ignore. But if you look at the Indian market, let's say we take UPI, who are the market leaders in taking that to the market? It is PhonePe, which is Walmart, and it is Google Pay. So PhonePe and Google Pay are learning from India, and while Rupee may have a little bit of difficulty getting into the US, down the line Visa and MasterCard are going to face competition from the retailers who have learnt in India and are now taking the ideas to the West. So PhonePe, which is owned by Walmart, is actually, a form of that is actually being used in Mexico. One of my PhD students works for Walmart Technology. He's moved from India. He was high up on the technology hierarchy in India. He's moved from here to Bentonville. And he just came for graduation. And he was telling me that what we are doing in India with PhonePe is really going to migrate into Mexico, because Mexico, Brazil, etc. are very similar to India. You look at a Kirana store in India, and you go look at a the equivalent of a Kirana store in Indonesia or Brazil. They look the same, only the language is different. So we have to pick and choose our battles, and I think the frugal, the advantage that we get in frugality and the limitation of the resources that we have means that we need to pick a battle.
Sure.
All right?
So, what you're saying is that there are some replicable strategies from India that can be used in these global south markets, and we can learn from them. You've done research with Professor Francis Kim from Harvard on imagining the future and backcasting, which is contrary to forecasting, that is using strategies from today to predict the future. So my question to you, Professor Raj, is what are you doing today to create the future of India? What is the future you have imagined for India, and how are you creating it today?
Well, I'll tell you what I'm trying to do. I'm not going to be creating the future of India. They are.
Have you imagined the future?
No, we have
of
so
India?
many unicorns in place. We have young people with ambitions. We have people with creative ideas. They are the ones who need to adopt the kind of ideas that Manoj and I are talking about. And what we need is we need to march along and scale. Okay, we need to, we need to be ambitious. And see, the thing is, forecasting works if what is going to happen tomorrow is somehow caused, influenced by the past. Right? Now, just look at EVs. How could we use data from internal combustion engine based automobiles to predict what needs to be done, and how the EV infrastructure needs to be different from the infrastructure related to the regular automobiles? So what is needed, for example, in EV, battery life or the range of the car is an important issue, and therefore the ecosystem of charging stations is important. So, I mean, these are not new issues. If I go back to color television, it was developed by RCA, which is division of General Electric, in 1934. It did not get into 50% of American households, let's forget about European and Indian, till 1970. 36 years to reach 50% market penetration.
In the US.
In the US. The question is why? The answer is very simple. Who the hell wants color television if there's no color programming?
Okay.
All right? So, in a very simple way, we have, for the EV industry, we have to grow the ecosystem for electrical vehicles. And in that kind of a context, now I haven't dived deep into it, but I'm pretty sure that if I did some market research, I will find that if you are charging station constrained, hybrid cars are going to be more popular. This is what my common sense tells me. And I'll be surprised if that doesn't come through in market research. So what we have to do is we have to think of the future and say, what is it we think is going to happen? And we drive towards that. It is no different from Mahatma Gandhi and Subhash Chandra Bose having the same notion, perhaps. They just had different paths of going there. So when I'm talking about backcasting, we imagine where we want to go and we work backwards. You may work backwards in a different path compared to me. But then what we have to do is we have to take a deep breath, and if he is going to be an investor, I have to convince him that I'm doing the right thing. Okay, so it is not only imagining the future, it is being able to explain why. So throughout my career as an educator, I've been telling people, don't get focused on what to do and how to do it. Because those who know what to do and how to do it end up by working for people who know why to
Why?
do it.
Okay.
Now I've gotten a step further. If you're going to lead a company, you have to be able to explain to people, explain why.
Why?
So as an investor, he's the board, the chief executive, is selling the ultimate intangible. In the old days, at least you got a stock certificate printed on paper. Now it is all imaginary, okay?
Sure.
You're selling the future. So if you're selling the future, you better have a backcasting strategy as to why you think you have a good idea.
Sure. You've led us into my question for Manoj. You sit on the passenger side of the vehicle that's driving into the future with founders and global companies, but also startups and entrepreneurs. How are you articulating this vision for the future? What is the advice you are giving them, rooted in the realities of today, which is new generation, new ecosystems, new realities of the market? What is your advice to these founders?
Annabel, I think we are very blessed, this generation especially, to have been born at this stage.
Okay.
Because this is a very, very vital time in the history of Indian economy.
Sure.
We are at a threshold, keeping in view the geopolitics, we are at a threshold of 1991 again,
Right.
where Indian economy can move up with a newfound confidence. Now the great news is that all these entrepreneurs and founders have opportunities like no other market in the world. And let me describe it in 4 buckets.
Sure.
There are 4 buckets of opportunity. First bucket is the oldest bucket, which is agriculture. And now government is really going deeper into 6 lakh villages, into agriculture, automation, food
Agri-tech.
industry, agri-tech, etc., in a big way. And now, not only we produce food for ourselves, 1.4 billion people, but we also export wheat, we export sugar, we export rice, and many other things. And you will see in the next 10 years, much more will happen. So a lot of youngsters, and I advise a couple of companies who are agri-tech companies, are really focusing on a neglected area of India, but 600-700 million people work there. So it's not a small area, it's a
Sure.
big market, it's bigger than Europe. So, and by the way, that market, housing is free because they stay in their own houses. Food is free because
They
free
grow
food is
their
being
own
given by
food.
government. No, food is given by
Sure.
to 800 million people. So they have a lot of surplus money, discretionary income, which they can spend on new things.
Sure.
So it's a huge market, and it'll grow very, very substantially. Second market is the simple market of infrastructure, which we have been lagging for last 200 years. Massive infrastructure, digital as well as physical.
Physical infrastructure.
Physical, for example, we're building 30-35 kilometers of highways a day. We're building 200 airports.
Airports, yeah.
We're building so many new ports,
Railways. And,
building railways, building renewable energy, nuclear energy. So much of that infrastructure. Plus, as Raj was saying, digital infrastructure on top, which is free for people, free for the citizen. You just have to build the capacity and the right architecture.
Sure.
That is second. And so many business opportunities have come up.
Right.
Third is manufacturing, where we had lost pace for the last 2-3 decades, like many countries of the world. And now we are trying to pull it back. And by the way, the Apple sold in US will be an Indian Apple.
Yes.
So many new products like that will be manufactured in India, not because of only cost, because obviously we have much lower cost,
Lower cost.
but also because our supply chains are improving, our logistics are improving, because manufacturing is linked to logistics, and logistics cost of India traditionally
Sure.
was 12-13%, whereas it should have been 6-7%, and that cost is really going down. So the connectivity in India is getting much better
faster.
than ever in the past. So manufacturing is a huge area, and I support 2 companies
Okay.
like Ola Electric, etc. in manufacturing. Latest plants, latest automated plants, high quality. fourth and most important, I feel, where fourth industrial revolution comes in, is the deep tech business,
Okay.
which is semiconductors, which is nuclear energy, which is all these chips,
Right.
all the
Quantum.
robotics, quantum computing, all the robotics, EV battery, etc. So many such new deep tech businesses, which India should have gone into many years back, but finally we have come back.
Sure.
So I believe that all the entrepreneurs and founders have a great portfolio of opportunities to look at. All the global funds have great portfolio of options to look at in India. It's not only one deep tech sector. In US, for example, we see only the 10, 15, 20
top 10,
companies are taking the NASDAQ up.
Sure.
Here, it's 500 companies, 1,000 companies, broad-based growth. So, and this will continue for a long, long time, maybe 2-3 decades. And that is what the opportunity is there for a young guy. So that's why I think I'm overage by about 40 years.
Right.
Raj is also a bit overage.
Yeah, little
But
little bit
you
older.
work with students and you work with founders, so your age,
Yeah,
your
we
mental age
we
is...
remain very young.
So,
Yeah.
so I know you're asking the question, but I'd like to add one more comment to what Manoj just said. A hidden advantage, not hidden to me, it's very obvious, but to some other people it may be hidden, is really the Indian market. Okay, I don't care which part of the market we call. You know, if the growth rate is 6%, 6.5%, 7%, what is happening is that, unfortunately, maybe 2/3 of the growth is coming from urban areas. And the rural area is picking up. Let me just make a small comment on the rural area as to why, and then I'll come back to the urban area. Rural area is picking up because we're beginning to use technology. You know, we're using satellite imagery, we're looking at drones to spread fertilizer, this, that, and the other. We're doing soil testing.
Sure.
So I work in the agri-tech area. This is new to me, but I know more about agriculture today
Sure.
than many people, may know, because I have the luxury of working with different people in the agri ecosystem. So what is happening is, for example, this company Creagen in Karnataka. Karnataka is not the hotbed for sugarcane. It's Uttar Pradesh, and that is the core. The production is about 30 to 35 metric tons per acre.
Okay.
But when you use all this technology, you're driving it up to close to 100 metric tons per acre.
Okay.
Almost tripling the output. Now that benefit has to go to the farmer. The farmer doesn't have a monthly income. The fasal aati, when they cut the, when they do the harvesting, that's when they get the money. Now why can't we you take agri-tech, combine it with fintech, and based on what the farm, acreage has produced, you can then use blockchain to say, 80% of that can be made available as a loan. So now they have a monthly income.
Sure.
Then if a larger company is managing the agri-tech venture, the farmers could be given a share of the growth from 35 to 100 metric ton. So what if we start doing this kind of thing, it's not only going to be possible to double farmers' income in 4 years, it might be possible to quadruple farmers' income in 2 years.
Sure.
If we look at it this. So this is, now let's leave agriculture aside. If 2/3 of the growth is coming from 1/3 of India, which is urban, then that 6%, let's say, 4 out of that 6% is going to 1/3 of the population, which means the urban area growth is 12%.
12%.
And within the urban area, you got the middle class and you got whatever classes. The middle class may be growing at 15 to 18%. And if you look at air travel in India, thanks to the infrastructure, that's growing at 24% per year. And it's not just air travel. Real estate is growing at 24%. Try to find an apartment in this part of town, or even if you go to Lucknow, where I'm from. So what is happening is that the demand is there. You go to anywhere in the world, and you'll find that it's not only the technology and the product, it's the demand that drives the market. And we have both.
Sure.
Okay? It's criminal, in my opinion, for people who are in industry to not invest. And I think the biggest risk that one can take in India is not taking the risk, because in a 15% growth market, if I am conservative, he will run past of me and say, Tata Raja.
One more thing I want to add, Annabel. Sorry.
Yeah, no, please. We
interject
need
here.
all the insights we can get.
Another sector of India which really in the next decade will blossom into a huge sector is defense.
Defense.
That sector traditionally has been neglected,
Sure.
has been a sector where local production has been low, international imports have been high. We were the largest importer actually.
Importer, yeah.
So I think that's a huge sector where already exports are building up. And Prime Minister has a vision that we should be a net exporter, not importer. So you will see huge focus on that, especially because private sector has got into it. Startups have gone into it. Space, in satellites, in drones, so many areas of defense.
Sure.
So I'm saying there's so many opportunities
Avenues.
for a young entrepreneur to get into.
I'll add one more, healthcare.
Yes.
And see, we keep saying India is a young country. Well, 11% of Indians are senior citizens. That's about 150 million people. That is about 40% of the population of the US. Now, what do these people need? They need healthcare.
Healthcare.
But not only do we need healthcare, so do the Japanese.
The world.
So do the
China.
Europeans. And I keep joking that even the Chinese will come to us for help, because this one-child policy means 2 parents, 4 grandparents, and 8 grandparents who refuse to go away. You go anywhere in the world, you got nurses from Kerala, doctors from all over India. Why don't we look at healthcare solutions? And here, there's some larger companies like Apollo, they're making strides. But one of our students started a company called Nephroplus. Okay, and they now have, within 4-5 years, they've developed 492 clinics and expanding like that. They're going to be the next unicorn coming out of India.
Wow.
So not everything has to be fintech and so on. The big advantage in India is the market. And the Center for Business Innovation, as you know, has written a paper, which the title of the paper is, what is your India?
Does your company have
Does
an
your company
India
have
strategy?
an India strategy?
Yeah.
Meaning, if you don't have your India strategy,
Tata.
you miss the boat.
Sure. To continue, Professor Raj, what you mentioned, demand market, which is in India, but also Indians are the largest diaspora community in the world. So from your experience, Manoj, do you see demand for Indian companies, Indian products across the world coming from the diaspora community?
Absolutely. 35 million diaspora.
Yes.
All are somehow linked back home, either through family or through friends or whatever. And they want transfer of money, transfer of education, content,
assets,
so many
buying
assets, yes, absolutely. So I'm saying they want, the heart is here, physically they may be somewhere else, but the heart is here. So Indian companies, and that's what I advise all the companies I work with, they should definitely leverage our NRIs, our Indian community, who may not be NRIs, they may be citizens of US or citizens of UK, but they are close to India.
Sure.
And if they don't exploit this, and this is not a small number, 35 million is a huge number, and they are all rich.
With huge, purchasing
huge,
power.
Huge discretionary income, which Indian companies can pick up.
Sure. So the mood that we are seeing today with a bit of pressures on trade, cross-border trade, but also the movement of people, with visa regulations in some markets. How do you think we can leverage that intelligence back in India? By that I mean people who have gone abroad but who are also coming back to establish businesses, to leverage the India growth story. How will these current pressures in the global trade spur innovation in India?
I think these pressures are good for India.
Okay.
Because sometimes we get complacent and we feel we are doing well. No, we are doing well. 6-7% is not bad in today's situation. But I think we need to be at least 10 trillion GDP.
By 2030.
Whenever.
for 2047.
Maybe 35, maybe 40, whenever.
Sure.
It will take 10 years to
Yeah.
15 years. 10 trillion, I feel, is the threshold.
Sure.
Where 3 countries of the world, US, China and India, are double-digit GDP countries.
Sure.
And all 3 will be at a different level of stature.
Sure.
All other countries will be single-digit GDP, and they'll be at a different level. So our respect will only come when we really grow to that level of 10 trillion plus. Now that will take time. It'll take a lot of effort, a lot of hard work. And by the way, we are replacing some incumbent countries, G7 countries. It won't be easy.
Yeah.
So therefore, we need to be also very smart. So I believe that this period of next 10, 15 years will be very important for us to outpace the growth across the world. And we deserve to get it. The only thing is that, for example, this situation of trade issue, I think the leveraging of our domestic consumption, as Raj was pointing out, of those 700 million people in the rural India is our highest priority now. Because US is domestic consumption market.
Yes.
China may be more export market,
Sure.
but India is more like US, is domestic consumption. If we make our domestic consumption far stronger in this period of next 10 years, especially the rural consumption, then you will see the goal of 10 trillion becomes easier to achieve. Because that part of India and that part of Bharat will grow faster.
Faster, yes. You made an interesting point that we are somehow back into the, the pivotal moment in history of liberalization reform. So now we are seeing these pressures which are spurring innovation in India. Prof Raj, you work with the GCC community. A lot of NRIs, people from abroad coming to India to set up businesses, to run global businesses. How will this lead to value creation in India? Because they are creating value for the world. But what does India have to gain from this?
Again, you ask an academic question X and you get an answer to question Y. I will build up a little bit on what Manoj said. That when you look at the diaspora, what is the diaspora able to do? Now, and there's different diasporas. Diaspora in UK is different from that in Canada. And I've spent a lot of time in the US. The Indian diaspora in the US is a little bit over 1% of the market, of the population, but it provides 5.5 to 6% of US taxes. And so, if you look at the importance of the Indian diaspora to the US, it's there. But we also talk about FDI, foreign direct investment. We also talk about, people sending money home.
Sure, remittances.
Remittances. So FDI may be 70, 80 billion, but what are remittances? 100 billion.
130 billion.
130 billion.
Okay.
So this power of the diaspora so far has been money. But what we are now having youngsters, we're coming up with deep tech solutions, etc. What we have missing to some extent is the business development capability and networks. The Indian diaspora can help provide that, to augment that. Okay, because they are already embedded in the market. And the idea now is that, technology coming out of India, deep tech coming out of India, will find a way out of India. Unfortunately, at the moment, there's many Indian companies simply leaving India. We have to find a way to keep them. We have to find a way to get that, some of the diaspora that has these global business, connections, to get more engaged, in here. And actually the current geopolitics that is going on, as Manoj said, is actually in our favor. Now I'll come to the questions that you asked about GCCs. GCCs started out by cost minimization, just as you had low-end manufacturing in China, we had low-end services coming. Now people soon discovered that these low-end services, the people who are providing that, they could actually design services and customer solutions. So then it went up the ladder. To give you an example, let's say if we take a company, a retailer, like Target or in the UK, what's the Marks and Spencer, something like that. So initially, the idea was looking at how do we provide technology services to these people. Then it's like, how do we design the stores? Then how do we design the financial solutions? So over a period of time, we just keep going up the ladder. And what we need to do is start looking at the value created, not simply the compensation that is being, earned by the GCC workers, but what is the value that is being created. To give you an example, a company like Wells Fargo Bank, has over 30,000 employees in India. What I know, it is very difficult. You can substitute one car for another one, no problem. But a bank cannot replace its back office operations because the bank's customer, if they don't have access to their account even for 5 minutes, there's chaos.
Yes.
So the switching cost is very, very high in the services sector. So as India keeps growing the service sector, more and more of the service industry power is going to, move to India. And just as our students are currently going to Australia, UK, it will happen that we need to start moving that thinking here. And I will just give you something to imagine. If you think 5-10 years from now, if you look at logistics and the technology behind the logistics, let's say for any global company, whether it is UPS or FedEx or whatever, where do you think the talent is for that? Is it in India, or is it in Memphis, Tennessee, or Atlanta, Georgia?
It's probably Indians in Memphis and
That too. But what I'm saying is the STEM talent, and I will add it's STEM first, science, technology, engineering, and math. Please make it a double M for medicine, because this talent is important, the market is important, and if we take the technology generation, I'm speaking like a marketer. You can generate the technology, but you need to bring the business development, the market development. So tech development combined with market development is what's going to make India great.
Just to supplement
Please, yes.
Raj on this point, I work with a company, Indian company called Eruditus.
Okay.
And I help them plan the future, plan scale, growth, profitability. Now, one of the projects they have undertaken is to bring in international universities here.
To India. Okay.
And already they have signed up 8 or 10
Sure.
new universities, whereas the universities will bring their brand and their content, and Eruditus will actually do everything else, which
Okay.
is build a campus. Like recently, the Chief Minister of
Maharashtra.
gave 5 campuses
Sure.
in Navi Mumbai of 50
Edu
acres.
City.
50 acres each.
Sure.
So they'll build campuses, they'll run all the programs. Eruditus will do everything else.
Wow.
Now, this is a fantastic transformation of Indian education,
Sure.
because the students who are going all over the world, to US, Canada, Australia, UK, and many other countries, were not only getting high quality education, but they were paying a lot in dollars.
Right.
Plus, they were happy, still they were happy because they were getting good jobs
Right. In those markets.
in those markets. Now, the problem is that jobs are not there.
Scarce.
They're not getting jobs. Plus, some incidents of violence, etc., are scaring parents. Parents are not happy with the situation. Some students are killed and all that. So, getting all those universities, all great names into India, building huge campuses, high quality, paying in rupees. So, can you imagine how many billions of dollars India will save?
Sure.
Not only save, but also build huge quality here of education, because these campuses in India will have much bigger capacity to induct Indian students.
Yes.
So I feel that these kind of transformations are really unprecedented.
Sure. And you've added an excellent perspective on education, and maybe we'll have another podcast on industry academia collaborations, because that is a topic close to Professor Raj's heart. But we really appreciate the insights brought in by both of you to this conversation, drawing from your deep experience of the past and imagining and working and sharing all your initiatives for the future. So I really have to thank you for this time together. Thank you.
Thank you, Annabel.
Thank you, Annabel. A lot of the quality of The session is actually based on the questions you asked.
Yes.
Thank
So
you
thank
for
you for
that.
your insights and inspiration for the future.